Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about how you can port your Unity game to Windows and also about universal apps. To start off by introducing myself, my name is Nathalie Goh-Livorness and I'm a technical evangelist. I work with developers to find success on the Windows platform, and I also have a special focus in game development. You can always keep up with the content on my blog and talk to me on Twitter, and also feel free to email me if you want to chat about any of the apps or games that you might be working on. So before we get on with the porting, you may want to know why you should port to Windows. Well, I work with a lot of indie devs, and in today's economy, I fully believe that developers should be looking at building for multiple platforms. Firstly, Windows is the most popular operating system with 1 billion devices worldwide. We have over 400,000 apps in our marketplace, which is a great number, but it's definitely not oversaturated. Windows Store applications run on the Windows 8 platform, which targets 3,000 or more different devices, which includes handheld small tablets, larger tablets, laptops of all sizes, and of course desktop systems as well. Some folks that are new to the platform think that this means only tablets, but like a Microsoft Surface tablet, but that's definitely not the case. Windows 8 runs on many device types, as I listed, and every one of them can run a Windows Store app on it. So like I said, we have over 400,000 apps between Windows Phone and Windows 8, so there's still, it's a great number, but it's definitely not oversaturated, and there's still plenty of room for you to bring your apps on over and be effective. The statistics show that there are more than 14 million downloads a day of apps on the phone alone, and studies show that Windows users spend more money in the store per month than Android users. Windows 8, in addition, has sold over 200 million licenses, with each of those instances by default having access to the Windows Store on them and the marketplace to download and install applications. So there is an ever so slightly different build and submission process for Windows 8 apps than there is for the Windows Phone, even though they share a lot of the same common features. We just announced Universal Apps at our Build conference, which is the first platform Universal Apps is the first platform that will be able to take a single codebase and go from phone to tablet to desktop to Xbox. So with a fairly easy export between platforms, I think why not target another large ecosystem? So let's do a high overview of Universal Apps. With the release of Windows Phone 8.1, it is now possible to use the Windows runtime to build apps that can target each form factor in the family of Windows devices. Using the Universal Windows App Project templates, you can now create one app where your business logic can be surfaced up through a user experience relevant to the device. In Visual Studio, a universal solution is composed of at least 3 projects, one for Windows Store, one for Windows Phone, and another one for the shared components. This unified approach to app development means that your app has the potential to reach not just Windows phones and tablets, but Windows laptops and workstations as well. So this enables you as a developer to write less code and target more platforms. So although encouraged where possible, you are not required to share your XAML one-to-one across platforms. You can create device-specific XAML or employ visual states to render your XAML in the most appropriate way. So this allows you to reuse code while maintaining an optimal user experience for each device. Unification is not just occurring in the development environment, it has also expanded into the Windows Marketplace and Development Center. So let's talk about some of these features. Linking apps provides a great way for a get once and download for all compatible Windows devices customer experience, which we expect to increase both paid and free app downloads across device types. So for those of you that are integrating in-app purchases, the linked app experience extends to durable in-app offers that use the same identifier in both stores. Linking is accomplished by using the same reserved names for the app in both stores and is not limited to Windows Phone 8.1 apps. So that means if you have existing or new Windows Phone apps, they may be linked to Windows 8 or 8.1 apps. So the image here on the screen illustrates what users will see when your apps are linked. If your Windows Phone app has an 8.1 package, you can also get 2 additional benefits from linking your apps. That is the ability to roam application data across phones, tablets, and PCs, and also a single notification channel via the Windows push notification services. So another new feature is unified registration. We now have one developer account to deploy to both Windows 8 and Windows Phone. And we've also consolidated our pricing model. So these are the things that you will actually need to port your Unity game over to Windows. You will need Unity 4.2 or later. I'd recommend 4.5.3. And you'll also need a Windows developer account. If you are a startup or a student, you can qualify for one of Microsoft's programs, being BizSpark or DreamSpark, which I'll probably talk about a little at the end, but I also have a number of blog posts about them, or if you want to know more about how you can get free Microsoft development tools, please reach out to me. So you'll also need Windows 8 and 8.1, which you can get, like I said, through DreamSpark or BizSpark, or you can also get a free trial if you want to check it out before buying it. And also it's cool to know that Windows 8 is freely upgradable to Windows 8.1. So no worries if you're on a Mac, because you can still get Windows 8 running on it. You can either use Boot Camp or install it as a virtual machine running inside of OS X. So here are some of the ways that you can do that, and you might want to check out some of these links that walk through doing that. So this is basically the gist of what we're going to go through. I'm going to hop on over to Unity in a second, and then we'll walk through how you can switch your build platform in Unity, set your player settings so we can put in the images and the icons, and then we'll build out from Unity, which will create a Visual Studio solution for our universal app, and then we can open that in Visual Studio, or we can just run it straight away to test the project and deploy it to either devices that we may have plugged in, like I'm going to plug in my Windows Phone and get some screenshots from that, or you can just run on your local system. So let's head over to Unity. So now that we're in Unity, you're going to want to make sure that your game is running fine and everything, and that you're ready for it to be shipped. So let's just see how it runs here in Unity. So it's working good. I'm not sure if the mic will pick up the music. There's also a couple things that you'll want to make sure that you account for before you port your game over to Windows. So you'll want to make sure that your game will pause when it is resized. So that is if you're using the snap feature, or if you resize the window of your game, you want it to pause. So you can see here that we're accounting for that in one of the scripts, looking at if width is less than or equal to 1,000 pixels. And on the phone, you'll want to make sure that it handles the back button. So for example, if you just have a one-level game, you could make it pause, or you could go back to the menu screen, or if you had a multi-level game, you could make that go back to the menu of the game. So we've already got that all taken care of in the script by tagging a game object with pause, and then setting the escape key to pause when we press the back button, which is the escape key. So now that we have that all set, we can go over to build settings. And you'll want to look at player settings before you go ahead and build it out. So here there's actually some nicer organization that is in the update with Unity. So now you have just like all the sections for putting your icons in one place, which is pretty neat. So if you're familiar with Visual Studio, you'll probably know that you can also upload your store icons and such from Visual Studio. But if, let's say, you build out your Unity project to Visual Studio and then you decide you have to go back and make a change in Unity, you'd have to upload those logos again, because it won't just save your settings over to Visual Studio. You'd have to build the project again. So if you want to make sure that you don't have to re-upload those icons, I would say just put them here on the Unity side, and they'll all import over to your Visual Studio solution. And there are some easy tools that can make your store icons for you for the right sizes that are requested, and I'll show those tools like right after this. So once you have that in and you've got the settings that you want, you can go back over to the build settings, and if you scroll down to Windows Store, you can pick Universal 8.1 SDK, and I'm going to do the XAML C# solution, and we're going to choose to build and run on local machine and Windows Phone. Actually, I'm just going to do it on the local machine right now, since you won't be able to see my Windows Phone anyway, but I will be sure to include a picture of it running to both my local machine and Windows Phone at the same time, because you can actually do that and it'll pop up on 2 places at once. So here I have the Unity C# projects checked, because if you don't check this, it won't build out all the files that you need for Visual Studio, and you can add them into your solution later, but I don't believe that you can edit them. So unless you definitely don't want to make any changes to your project, I would suggest checking this so that you have your completed solution to work on from Visual Studio. So, okay, now that we have all of this set and we have our main scene included in build settings, which is always important, we can go ahead and build and run. So I'm just creating a new folder here to store it, and we'll see how this goes. Still building. Cool, so now that we have ported that over as a universal app, and we've had it run on local machine and phone, we can go look at the universal app solution. You can see the universal app solution with the 3 projects that I mentioned. We have the 8.1, the phone, and then the shared one. And then everything else in Visual Studio is the same as you're used to. So now let's hop on over back to PowerPoint. So when publishing a Windows Phone 8 game, you need to set the build settings to master. So this is to get rid of the development build message in the bottom right side of the app. You'll want to do x86 for Windows 8 and ARM for phone device, x86 if you're using the emulator. I mentioned earlier that some of my coworkers have been really awesome and made tools for you to make your store icons. So the one on the left was created by Adam Tuliper, and Icon Maker app was made by Steve Meyer. And both of these tools allow you to drag in any image, and it will generate the store icons that you need of the required sizes. So these are the sizes here. You'll have to have a minimum of 4 graphics with 3 logos and a splash screen. So these have to be .png or JPEG file, and you will want to overwrite the existing file in the project directory with your custom graphics. So once you have your project all built out in Visual Studio and you have picked your logo icons and you're all ready to submit to the store, you want to make sure you have a Dev Center subscription. So like I said earlier, if you're a student or a startup, you can get that for free. So definitely contact me about that. Otherwise, you can sign up once for the 2 stores. And then once you've got that ready, then you can go ahead and submit your app. So if you go to File, Store, you'll see the option to launch the Windows Create App Package Wizard. So if you go through the steps there and also launch the certification kit, it walks you through the process of picking your app name and creating the package, and also does like a preliminary certification test for you. Passing this test does not necessarily guarantee acceptance into the store, but is a good way to cover the major problem areas that people might get stuck on. So once your package is created, you'll want to upload the .appxupload file into the Dev Center, so that's dev.windows.com, and if you go over to Dashboard, you'll see a place where you can submit your app. And there's a couple other steps that you'll have to walk through, such as picking your app name and the selling details if you want to price that, and you'll also have to pick an H rating. So I read this funny quote on someone named Jim's blog. It was, "There are 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and the fact that your Windows 8 application will fail certification if it's network capable and you don't have a privacy policy." So if your application communicates with the internet in any way, even through a third-party ad SDK, you will need to specify a privacy policy URL when you are submitting your app to the store. This will not be required on submission, so make a note to yourself that you have to add it. A privacy policy is pretty easy to generate, and you can follow this really great blog post about it. Another tip is if your app doesn't fully support touch input and fully support keyboard and mouse input, you have to disclose that in the description elements of your app. Because touch support is required and many devices now are touch enabled, so that's a great feature to have in your app. Another consideration is culture. Some countries have rules that are about specific content, and so your game might fail for those reasons. Your submission report will contain details about it if that is one of the reasons why you don't pass. And when I was looking at this, it reminded me of how when Diablo 3 came out and it wasn't allowed in China, the search term to use was big pineapples, and that was because the term big pineapple in Chinese is Dapple Lo, which sounds quite close to Diablo, and therefore made some sort of sense for them to use. But listings for the game went so far as to include a picture of a pineapple too, to throw the authorities off the scent. So that was pretty funny to me, and that's what I thought of when I was thinking about culture in this situation. So another consideration is contrast ratio. Dark gray text on a mostly black background won't pass certification. So make sure that your tiles are all visible, and definitely don't look anything like this one here on the right. Just to wrap up, I want to leave you with some information about Microsoft BizSpark. That's what I mentioned earlier. So if you're a startup that's less than 5 years old and you're making less than $1 million US in annual revenue, developing software, and you're privately held, then you're eligible to sign up for Microsoft BizSpark, which gives you 3 years of free software and development tools, and also $200 of Windows Azure credits for the first month and $150 thereafter. So it's a really great offer and a great way to take advantage of all the top-notch Microsoft development tools. So please reach out to me if you want to get signed up for that, or if you have any other questions about the presentation today. So thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see your Unity game in the store.